7,200 feet down. That's more than a mile deep. No sunlight has ever reached this spot, not once, not ever. A robot arm swept a light across the ocean floor. The light landed on a bed of old ship's coal. Right next to it sat a leather trunk. It had been sealed shut since 1857. Something stranger was about to show up on camera. Nobody on that boat was ready for what the camera found. The expedition team called it haunting, a chilling moment that stayed with them long after the cameras went dark. Whatever it was, it had been sitting down there, alone in the dark, for 157 years. To understand why a robot submarine could scare a room full of scientists in 2014, go back to the night this ship and everyone on it got buried alive. It all started with one man's choice to walk toward danger instead of away from it. The date was September 8th, 1857. The place was the dining room of a steamship called the Central America. At the head of the table sat a naval officer named William Lewis Herndon. He was 43 years old. He'd fought in a war. He'd once explored the Amazon River for the U.S. Navy. Across from him sat a young bride named Adeline Easton. She was heading home to New York with her new husband, Ansel, after their honeymoon. That night, someone brought up a news story. A ship captain had abandoned his own passengers during a disaster. Herndon set down his glass. He said something back. He had no idea those exact words would be written down and remembered forever. This ship carried people, and it carried a fortune in gold. It started life in 1852 under a different name, the SS George Law. It was 280 feet long, built from wood, with two giant paddle wheels on the sides. A shipbuilder named William H. Webb built it in New York. Later, it got a new name and a new job, carrying passengers along a route through Panama. That route was the fastest way home for anyone who'd struck gold in California. You'd sail to Panama, cross land by train, then catch a ship like this one for the last leg to New York. This ship had already made that trip 43 times safely. This was trip number 44. It left Havana, Cuba, carrying 477 passengers and 101 crew members, miners, merchants, and families heading home together. One of them was an Oregon merchant named John Dement. He packed a leather trunk full of pressed shirts, hand-rolled cigars, a loaded gun, and a brand new pair of work pants. That same trunk would show up again, still sealed, 157 years later. Banks in San Francisco had loaded it with gold worth $1.6 to $2 million in 1857 money. Passengers carried their own gold too, dust, nuggets, and coins sewn into coat linings and packed into trunks. Altogether, historians say the ship held close to 30,000 pounds of gold. That's 15 tons, spread across almost 600 people who all thought they were almost home. This ship had a hidden weakness. Nobody in that dining room knew to be scared of it. Ships like this one carried no heavy stone or iron in their bottom to keep them steady. Instead, they relied on the weight of their coal. Coal gets lighter every single day you burn it, so the ship got less stable, mile by mile, the longer it sailed. On September 9th, the ship ran straight into a hurricane. 2 days later, winds were blowing 105 miles an hour. Seawater poured in through broken windows. The ship tipped hard to one side. One giant paddle wheel lifted clean out of the water. The other one sank too deep to work. The engines died. The pumps that were supposed to clear the water died with them. Passengers grabbed buckets and started bailing water out by hand. It wasn't enough. Down below, some of the women on board came to a hard realization. Gold wouldn't save them at the bottom of the ocean. So they broke open their own gold bags and let the coins roll and scatter across the tilting floor, free for anyone to grab. Herndon called over a passenger named Theodore Payne. He took off his own gold pocket watch and handed it to him. "Tell my wife," he started to say. He couldn't finish the sentence. Herndon walked to a bench on deck. He sat down and put his head in his hands. Then he stood back up. He put on his full uniform. He gave one final order. Every woman and child goes into the lifeboats first. Armed officers stood guard to make sure nobody broke that rule. 52 women and children made it onto a passing ship called the Marine before dark. Every single one of them lived. 425 men did not. The next morning, a Norwegian ship called the Ellen pulled 49 more people out of the water. They were the last survivors anyone would ever find. In total, 153 people lived through that night. 578 had left Havana just 4 days earlier. At 8 p.m. on September 12th, a giant wave slammed the ship. People in the water watched Herndon standing alone on the side of the sinking ship. He took off his hat and bowed his head as the ocean pulled him under. The ship sank at a spot in the open Atlantic Ocean called the Blake Plateau, somewhere between 7,200 and 8,000 feet down. 30,000 pounds of gold sank with it. When word reached Wall Street that the gold wasn't coming, banks that were low on cash reserves panicked. Historians call it the Panic of 1857. It was one of the worst money crises of the 1800s. For over 100 years, that's where the story ended. On paper, anyway. Then, in the mid-1980s, an engineer named Tommy Thompson decided he was going to find that ship. He raised $12.7 million from 161 investors. He started a company. He built a 6-ton robot submarine and named it Nemo. It had cameras, mechanical arms, and thrusters strong enough to hold steady against deep ocean currents. He teamed up with a mathematician and used something called Bayesian search theory. In plain terms, that just means using math and probability to narrow down an impossibly huge search area. He worked from old survivor stories, storm patterns, and Navy records to guess the most likely spot. In September 1988, it worked. Nemo found the ship 7,200 feet down. Finding the ship was only the beginning of a whole new problem. 39 insurance companies sued Thompson's team. Their argument, back in 1857, their companies had paid out money to families after the disaster. So now, they said, they owned the gold. The case went all the way to federal court. It became one of the most important sea salvage cases in history. The court's decision: if you recover a wreck carefully and you keep good records, you get to keep what you find. Courts gave Thompson's team about 92% of everything they'd pulled up. In the year 2000, that gold was sold to a company called the California Gold Marketing Group for around $100 million. Thompson never paid his own investors. He never paid his own crew either. When a judge finally ordered him to show up in court, he vanished instead. For 2 years, he lived under fake names in hotel suites, and 500 mint-condition gold coins he'd recovered vanished right along with him. U.S. Marshals finally caught him in Florida in January 2015. He's still in prison today on a contempt of court charge for refusing to tell the judge where those 500 coins are hidden. He has never said a word about it. As the legal fight dragged on for years, the people he owed simply gave up waiting for an answer. Adeline Easton made it through that night on the Marine, while her husband, Ansel, helped bail water until the very last moment. She lived long enough to write down everything she saw that night, including the exact words Herndon said at that dinner table, days before the storm ever touched the ship. "Well, I'll never survive my ship," he told her. "If she goes down, I go under her keel. But let us talk of something more cheerful. If she hadn't written it down, nobody would ever know he'd said it at all. That's the story history almost lost for good. If you want more true stories dragged back up from the bottom of the ocean, hit subscribe. There's a lot more still buried down there." By 2014, most scientists had one belief about this wreck. Whatever mattered had already been found in the 80s. What was left, they figured, was just rotted wood and rusted metal, buried under decades of sand. Some historians disagreed. They still believed millions of dollars in gold dust and unopened containers were still down there, scattered outside the old dig site, untouched. In March 2014, a court-appointed official named Ira Owen Kane handed the job to a company called Odyssey Marine Exploration. Their research ship, the Odyssey Explorer, sailed out to the wreck site carrying an 8-ton robot named Zeus. Sending a robot this deep isn't easy, and it isn't safe. One bad wave against the ship above could snap the cable connecting them, and the whole machine would be lost forever, along with anything it found. Zeus made it down anyway. On its very first trip down, Zeus's cameras found exactly what the doubters expected to see. Wooden beams from the ship's frame, almost completely eaten away by a tiny deep-sea creature called Xylophaga, a wood-boring clam that slowly chews through timber until nothing solid is left. Iron machinery, rusted by bacteria into jagged, crumbling shapes, scattered across a debris field bigger than 20 football fields side by side. For a few minutes, it looked like the skeptics had been right all along. Nothing left to find. Then the light swept further across the mud. Sitting right there in the open, with no digging required, were 5 huge gold bars and 2 gold coins. One coin was stamped 1857, the exact year the ship sank. The bars weighed between 96 and 313 ounces each, and everyone had a stamp from the company that made it. One bar, weighing just over 32 ounces, was stamped by a California gold company called Kellogg and Humbert, the very same company listed on the ship's original 1857 shipping papers. That exact gold bar would later sell at auction for a huge price. Gold does not rust, it does not corrode. Salt water cannot touch it. That's why the iron machinery a few feet away had crumbled into jagged rust, while this gold looked the same as the day it went down. In under 2 hours of filming, without moving a single shovel of mud, Zeus had found close to 1,000 ounces of gold. It proved the 1980s team had left a fortune sitting in plain sight the entire time. Over the following months, Zeus made 26 careful trips along the base of the ship. What it uncovered, the lead scientist Bob Evans nicknamed the Garden of Gold, more than 15,500 gold and silver coins, 45 more solid gold bars, 80 pounds of raw gold, almost 3 kilograms of gold dust sifted right out of the mud. Mixed in with the American coins were more than 1,500 silver coins from Chile, carried by South American miners heading home from California with everything they'd earned. Right next to all that gold sat John DeMent's leather trunk, finally opened. The cigars were still rolled, the shirts were still pressed, the gun was still loaded. That same pair of work pants was still in one piece. This should not have been possible. The same cold water that failed to stop that tiny clam from eating the ship alive had done the exact opposite job inside this trunk. Packed tight with wool and cotton, buried in coal and mud, almost no water could get in or out. Whatever tiny bacteria made it inside used up all their oxygen fast. Then they simply ran out of the fuel that decay needs to keep working. For 157 years, the ocean tried to destroy everything on this ship. Inside one sealed leather box, it had built a time capsule instead. Then, on that same bed of coal, Zeus's lights found her. A photograph, just 2.5 inches wide, made on a thin metal plate, the kind of photo people took in the 1850s, before paper photos existed. It showed a young woman, lying face up, staring straight into the camera lens. She had dark curling hair, a lace blouse, and a knowing half smile. Photos like this should not survive underwater for 157 years. Normally, Deep ocean pressure and tiny sea creatures destroy paper and film within months. This photo had one thing going for it: a sheet of glass sealed tight over the metal plate. That glass created an airtight pocket strong enough to survive pressure over 200 times stronger than what you feel standing on land. Inside that sealed pocket, her face stayed frozen in time, exactly as it looked the night the ship went down. That's why the crew started calling her the Mona Lisa of the deep. The whole site is now legally recognized as a grave. Cameras have found leather boots and belt buckles resting in the mud, in the exact shape of where people once stood, the only trace left behind after the ocean slowly dissolved everything else. In December 2022 and March 2023, an auction house called Holabird Western Americana Collections sold off more than 270 recovered items in Reno, Nevada for the court. John DeMent's work pants, the oldest known pair of Gold Rush miners' jeans anywhere in the world, sold for $114,000. The brass keys to the ship's own treasure room sold for $102,300. His pressed shirt sold for $3,240. The Kellogg and Humbert gold bar sold for a huge undisclosed price. Today, that recovered treasure is worth somewhere between $550 and $765 million. More than 80% of that debris field has still never even been searched. Nobody has gone back since 2014. The site is still tied up in a legal fight over who owns what's left, frozen exactly where Zeus left it. This case still shapes how every shipwreck found today gets salvaged, documented, and sold. This wreck did more than just sit there in the mud. It became a lesson. The ship failed because of that same hidden flaw from the very first night: no solid weight at the bottom to keep it steady. Shipbuilders still study that failure today. Those objects came from 3 different continents, sitting together on one ocean floor, proof of how connected the world already was back in 1857. 2 questions remain unanswered. Nobody has ever figured out who the woman in that photograph really was, and those 500 missing coins are still gone, and the only man who knows where still isn't talking. The gold pulled the cameras down there. What stopped the room was a face staring up out of total darkness, refusing to be forgotten by an ocean that swallows everything else. If one storm, one ship, and one photograph can still reach across 157 years and do that to a room full of scientists, it's worth wondering what else is still down there, waiting for someone brave enough to go look. If you're curious enough to go looking too, subscribe. There's another buried story waiting for next time.